Imagine a little guy sitting on your shoulder, whispering in your ears all the time. Says you have the ability to give him real estate in your brain, or the ability to say, I am not giving you real estate in my brain, I control it. I am saying no to him being in my brain and yes to making my own decision. I wanted to talk today about something which is not my usual topic, but is very business centric, and it discusses on how to make decisions in business. Making decisions in business are not always easy to make. And the harder the decision is, typically, the more important it is for your business. And I wanted to give a little bit of a surrounding on how you actually get to those decision-making processes, because I think it doesn't just apply to business, but it also applies to life. And I would like to give some life advice and business advice at the same time. And I would do my best to try to wrap it all into one big nice bundle, hopefully. So, most of the time when we make decisions or we're saying yes to something, we're obviously saying no to something else, right? If I say yes to waking up early because I want to be at work on time, then in essence I'm saying no to sleeping in late, right? Because the yes is a no. And vice versa. If I'm saying no to waking up early, then I'm saying yes to waking up late, and then obviously saying yes to showing up late at work. That's a small synopsis of it, and that applies across the board. If I'm saying yes to a certain investment, I'm saying no to a different investment. Or if I'm saying yes to pass on an investment, then I'm going to be possibly saying no to that investment as well. So there's always a component of yes and no. There's always two sides of the economy. There's a yes economy, and there's a no aspect to it. Every single decision you make a decision to go talk to a political advisor on something that needs political input. Then you're making a decision who to meet. That's yes to a particular political party and no to the other political party. You're always making a dichotomy. Every decision you make is either a yes with a no or no with a yes. It's always the way it works, right? There is no way to make a decision one way or another. And I think that also applies in life. You think about it, every time that you make in life, you want to go to a restaurant, you're saying yes to a particular restaurant and no to a different restaurant. I know it sounds silly in restaurants, but that's really how decisions are. Decisions always have a yes and a no component to it, because you're saying yes to something, you must be saying no to something else. And I know it sounds very simple, but the truth is, we can't have everything. And a lot of times you see people get stuck in decision paralysis, is where they're basically in the process of making a decision, and they're like, yeah, but I want this, and I want this, and I want this. You can't have everything. You have to be able to say yes and no. And it's so important to understand the value of that yes and the value of that no, because you're weighing the yeses and the no's against each other, and that's why you're making those decisions. And it's very, very important. I think I want to give this scenario where it's a little bit different, and you'll see it comes from the Torah, which is the Jewish Old Testament. It says in one of the tracts, it says, I'm going to say the Hebrew and then I'll try to translate in English. It says, Re'ei nasat lefneichem bracha uklala. I put in front of you. It doesn't say. It says, I put it in front of you, blessing and curses. It doesn't say blessing or curses, it says blessing and curses, which is an interesting take. And then it goes to explain that the blessing is listening to me, and the curses is not listening to me, which is an interesting thing. So first of all, the fact that they placed in front of us blessing and curses, they didn't put in front of us blessings or curses, because I could pick blessing, I could pick curses. No, there's blessing and curses in front of us. We literally have a dichotomy, a blessing and curses right in front of us. We get to make a decision. Either pick blessing. If you don't pick blessing, you're picking curses. Pick curses, then you're not picking curses, you're not picking blessing. They are both the same. They are both literally a dichotomy of two sides. And one is blessing, which means listen to me, and curses, which means don't listen to me. It's a dichotomy, it's the two sides of a coin. And the more we understand there's two sides of a coin, I think the best way to understand this is an addiction. When someone has an addiction to something, if they want to control that addiction, they have to have the ability to say no to the addiction, which is not an easy thing to do. When they're saying yes to addiction, they're saying, yes, I want to be involved in addiction. When they say no to the addiction, they make a decision to say, I am saying no, and therefore I can control it. There's many ways of doing that and controlling addictions. We're not talking about addictions today. That's not part of our conversation. But we can understand this component where there is a component of yes and no. And in life, I think a lot of people have this mentality where they say, oh, I'm a different person, I'm different because I have different challenges than you, or I have different challenges in life. And we say this in business also, I have different challenges. Yeah, that guy had it easy because of whatever circumstance may be. Maybe his father had money, maybe he just happen to have a knack for that business and therefore just happen. The problem that they don't realize is that everybody has different challenges. Every single person in the world has different challenges. It might be different than your challenge, it might be different than someone else's challenges. Those challenges are unique to you yourself. And the more you realize that when you're saying yes and no, you're saying yes to a challenge or no to a challenge, you're the same person as the other person. His challenges might be a different challenge than yours. He has the same decision-making process to say yes or no. And when you learn to say yes and no, the proper yes and the proper no, and you say yes to growing your business, yes to living a better life, yes to all these things, you're going to say no to the other side of those things, which is no to making bad decisions, no to be addictions, no to components that are actually affecting us. Could you imagine going into a conference meeting and having the ability to take your phone and leaving it outside? That's not an easy thing to do. Trust me, it's not easy. And that requires saying yes to the meeting and no to the phone. You have to have the ability to say yes to something and say no at the same time. And if you don't, you get hauled into these circumstances where other things are controlling you. Like someone gave a great example of that. Imagine, he says, if you're in a fight with somebody, he says, imagine a little guy sitting on your shoulder, whispering in your ears all the time. He says, you have the ability to give him real estate in your brain, or the ability to say, I am not giving you real estate in my brain, I control it. I am saying no to him being in my brain and yes to making my own decisions. That is what it takes. The phone is the perfect example of this because the phone is literally an addictive aspect and people can't even put it down. It's like literally their third arm, which is crazy. Could you imagine saying no to a phone and saying yes to everything else that comes with it? That is the power of yes and the power of no. Understanding the economy of yes and no. Learn to say yes to the right things and no to the things you should say no to. And learn to say no to the right things and therefore also yes at the other side. The more you learn that, the more you can control your destiny, the more you can control your business, the more you can control your life and all your circumstances. That is an important component to the thing. I don't want to talk about this because I think it's something that's not really spoken about a lot and people really just, they ramble. There is no rambling. You make decisions. Decisions are your own and the outcome of those decisions might not be your own, but at least the decision is your own. You have the ability to make decisions. Make them properly. With that, please subscribe. Any ideas? We're always looking for ideas. So please reach out.